Chapter 3 in the book The End of Miasmation of Miasms by Dr. Praful Vijayakar. Chapter 3 is The Materialistic Body to the Immaterialistic Mind. However materialistic it may sound, a homeopath who considers himself a holistic healer has no right to neglect the unit of life, which is the cell. The cell, which makes up a tissue to form an organ and ultimately the system, is the building block of man and is very much a part of the holistic approach. So, man, as we know, is made up of multiple systems. The systems are made up of organs, and organs are made up of tissues, which in turn are made up of number of cells. The cell is a unit of life which is having almost all the properties of the man himself, as its functioning is governed by the genes and the genetic code which is inside the nucleus. This comprises of what is known as the genotype. What we see outside is a representation of the genetic code expressed outwards, and this is called the phenotype. The genetically ruled programs of metabolism, of differentiation and specialization concerning physical looks, functioning and attitudes of the person find its root in every cell, that is, in the genetic apparatus of the cell. Thus, the idea of individualization has its root in every cell. Can a homeopath afford to neglect it? Therefore, if we want to understand man, his disease, mental or physical, one has to understand him at the cellular level and genetic level. Cell and its functions. Living cells probably arose on Earth about 3.5 million years ago by spontaneous reactions between molecules in an environment that was far from chemical equilibrium. Present day living cells are classified as prokaryotic, bacteria and their close relatives, or eukaryotic, amoeba and higher animals and plants. From our knowledge of present day organism, it seems likely that the development of the directly autocatalytic mechanism fundamental to living system began with the evolution of families of RNA and DNA molecules which stores genetic information required by such cells. Although they had relatively simple structure, there was presence of intelligence and hence they could adapt to suit their needs. The basic functions of the cell arose from the needs. The first need was to survive. Survival required energy. Thus, first to evolve were three principal energy yielding processes of glycolysis, respiration, and photosynthesis. The food available to the cell in the form of proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates was broken down step by step in a sequence into smaller biological molecules. By oxidation of these biological molecules, cells obtain energy. Energy was stored in the form of ATP in the mitochondria. Food plus oxygen is equal to ATP, energy, plus excretory products. This ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which acts as energy currency, is used for normal activities of cells. Most of the chemical reactions in the cells, catabolic or anabolic, are concerned with energy production. The first function of a cell or organism is to acquire nutrition and oxygen for survival of self. The first function of a man shall therefore encompass all the systems which enable oxygenation, nutrition, and excretion to contribute to energy production and its neurogenic control to establish biological order. Example: the respiratory system, which helps in obtaining oxygen for oxidation and eliminate the waste carbon dioxide. The digestive system, which helps in digestion and assimilation of the food molecules. The excretory system, which helps us to eliminate the waste products through stool, urine, and skin perspiration. The metabolic activity in humans, which helps in production of energy ATP. The neuroendocrinal control in order to maintain the biological order. The second basic function of a living organism. The world of living beings is was and will always be hostile. The living beings, which in this material world represent a fraction of cosmic energy which rules the universe, have to follow the laws of energy. The second law of bioenergetics states that every system, living being is also a system, has to degrade. Thus, every life has to end. Every living being has to die. But the first function of oxygenation, nutrition, and energy production is meant for survival. Life becomes a tug of war between two forces, one for survival and another for destruction. Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest holds good only because the DNA RNA oriented genetic structure of the living organism constantly shows adaptations in the organism to help it to prolong life. But the period of life is limited, and that is the eternal truth. Nothing in this world can be immortal. An organism tries its level best to improve its own quality of life by adaptations, but a time comes when it has to perish. The life which we lead could be a waste. So, the living being decided not to let go what it has achieved in its lifetime by producing one of its own kind. If not me, my progeny will continue my work in future seems to be the slogan. Destiny cannot win. I can still score over the destiny of mortality by cloning myself. I am too selfish to give up all that I have learned, all that I have achieved. I'll deceive fate. I'll not let my gains. I have to reproduce, reproduce, reproduce. This may have been the philosophy behind the development of the second function, that of propagation or production or generation. The second function of generation helps in survival of species. At genetic level, a gene was assigned the task of reproduction of ditto. The process by which it generally multiplies is called mitosis. All the basic functions in a living organism seem to have evolved as primary necessities, and all are concerned with establishing a biological order. For any order to be established, there is a need for law, in absence of which there can be confusion, that is, choice. The law that governs the reproduction inhibits excess production and limits the multiplication to 1:2. Mitosis, the process that enables a cell to reproduce, has series of steps that ensure that one cell divides only into two of its ditto kind. The second basic function of a living organism is generation. The first function helps the living organism in survival of life. The second helps the organism in survival of its species. The first function helps the living organism in survival of self. The second helps the organism in survival of its species. But the functions of survival of self and reproduction do not ensure any safety from hospital forces in the world, which are constantly trying to end life. For this very reason, the living organism developed a system or a mechanism called the immune system. A simple single-celled animal like amoeba developed a very simple immune mechanism which could get rid of harmful agents and protect itself. As life evolved into a complex multicellular animal, the immune system became more and more complex. In a human being, the immune system is very complex and offers protection in different organs and systems differently. It has mental, physical, and physiological aspects and is entirely governed by the mind and the genes. The immune system. This is simple in early and lower animals and complex in multicellular animals and man. This is a system comprising of complex actions, mental, physical, and physiological, which are brought about as a reaction to a seemingly destructive stimuli. The main aim is to protect life and prevent destruction. This system is governed by the genetic apparatus. The response of every individual organism may be grossly the same but differ in intensity according to the nature of every organism. Thus, the third basic function evolved to protect. Thus, the three basic functions that a cell performs are: the first function of a cell or an organism is to acquire nutrition and oxygen for survival of self. The second basic function of a living organism is generation or reproduction for survival of species. The third basic function evolved was the immunity to protect both the individual and species. The material body, which is made up of cells, suffers from various diseases. We as physicians encounter many diseases. Whether we are allopaths, homeopaths, Ayurvedic practitioners, our bounden duty is to relieve the suffering of humanity. Day in and day out, we come face to face with a large spectrum of diseases ranging from ordinary skin lesions to psychic ailments to irreversible pathologies like cancers. Most of us daily deal with the following: dermatitis, pharyngitis, tonsillitis, gastritis, appendicitis, colitis, arthritis, psoriasis, ischemic heart diseases, atherosclerosis, hypertension, diabetes, hypothyroidism, fibroids, tumors of all kinds, cancers, neoplasms, hysteria, mania, imbecility, madness, epilepsy, and convulsions of all sorts, scoliosis and kyphosis, caries, cancer, neoplasms, gout, rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatic or valvular heart diseases, hemorrhoids, amenorrhea, tuberculosis of the lungs, deafness, cataract, urinary calculus, paralysis. Many times, causes were not known, or at least were not known until the recent advances in molecular biology and genetics. Robbins pathology states most of the diseases in organs are caused by derangement at cellular level. Derangements or disorders like inflammation, growth, destruction, etc. are due to defense mechanism of cells. In the material body, disease starts in a cell. All physical diseases can be traced to organ injury. Virtually all forms of organ injury starts with physiological, molecular or structural alterations in cells. This concept was first put forward by Rudolf Virchow, known as father of modern pathology, many years ago. This meant whatever disease a person comes with at physical level, one needs to understand the changes that have occurred in the cell of the affected organ. The modern medicine goes only as far as to determine the changes at systemic level or organ level or functional level. In case of gastritis with burning in the stomach, we are told to neutralize the acid with a base and anesthetize the tissues which give burning sensation to benumb it and be pain-free. One does not go into the details of the cells of gastrointestinal tract to know why they are so sensitive, even if it is due to an increased production of hydrochloric acid. Nor do we try to find out what induces the secretory gland to increase the gastric juice secretion. Modern medicine thus teaches us to neutralize the effects when cause remains constant. The cause at the cellular level or glandular secretory level is definitely genetically governed, as it is obvious that in similar conditions and with similar food, all the individuals on the earth will not show the same symptoms of acid peptic disorder. Secondarily, the symptoms of pain or burning are not necessarily only due to acute inflammatory response of the acid peptic disorder. It may be chronic, indurative, or even destructive process going on in the gastric lining. Thus, without determining the pathological process underlying a disease, it is foolish to treat a patient with any healing signs, be it allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurvedic, Unani, etc. More so with homeopathy. If a homeopath considers himself a holistic healer, he has no right to neglect the unit of life, which is the cell. The cell, which makes up a tissue to form an organ and ultimately the system, is the building block of man and is very much a part of holistic approach. The genetically ruled programs of metabolism, of differentiation, defense, and specialization concerning physical looks, functioning, and attitudes of the person finds its root in every cell that is in the genetic apparatus of the cell. Thus, the idea of individualization has its root in every cell. Can a homeopath afford to neglect it?